generations. It's supposed to describe children stolen from their parents just because they were Aboriginal. That phrase, stolen generations, was invented in 1981 by Professor Peter Reid. And in a speech later that I reported at the time, he named two famous people he said were stolen. These were the people that really epitomised what he's talking about. One was Loicho O'Donoghue, who became a top public servant and patron of the Sorry Day Committee. And the other was Charles Perkins, the first head of a Commonwealth Government department who was Aboriginal. Not a man easy to describe as a victim. Now, I'd always known this claim about O'Donoghue and Perkins, that they were stolen, were almost like the foundation members of the stolen generations. It was false. I knew that. O'Donoghue later told me she hadn't been stolen. Her father had cruelly given her away. And as I reported for years, Perkins' mother, Charlie Perkins' mother, Hetty, had actually asked a missionary in Alice Springs to take an educated, talented son, who years later said on radio in Melbourne, no, he wasn't actually stolen. But if Charlie Perkins was stolen, who stole him? Well, it must have been these people. Father Percy Smith, missionary and priest in Alice Springs and then later Adelaide, and his wife Isabel, who helped him run the bungalow, building in Alice for Aboriginal children, has been supposedly stolen. So did Percy and Isabel really steal Charlie Perkins and other Aboriginal children, first in Alice Springs, and then bringing some of them, Charlie included, with them to Adelaide to start afresh? Were they child stealers, agents of a genocide, the stolen generations? Or did they and many missionaries like them help the children being abandoned or neglected or sent to, in this case, this couple, the Smith couple, for an education that the children couldn't get in the desert? Well, the grandson, Mark Smith, has now gone through his grandparents' papers and combed the archives to discover and to tell the real story of this remarkable couple, blamed for their role in the stolen generations. But in fact, the couple remembered with great fondness of the children they helped, many of them becoming very successful, including Charlie Perkins. Mark Smith is now looking for investors to make a film of their lives, with a Hollywood director who's lined up. I spoke to him earlier. Mark Smith, great to see you. We're told that this is all part of the stolen generations. The Australian Human Rights Commission talked about a genocide, officials taking children from their parents just because they were Aborigines, and this is all terrible, and we've got sorry days since. The children that your grandparents helped, were they stolen?
Look, I'm not an expert on the stolen generation. I studied frontier conflict and the massacres at university. But certainly, I'm just a person who's trying to share his grandmother's story, Andrew. And what I can tell you is the initial group who came from Alice Springs all came with the permission of their mothers. In that group were Bill Espy, John Palmer, David Woodford, Charlie Perkins and Malcolm Cooper. St Francis House was a place that was doing good things, so they wanted to send more children there. And among the people who lived at St Francis House were children who had been forcibly removed by government from their parents without their knowledge or consent.
The children that your grandparents helped, though, do not seem to have been stolen. Charlie Perkins, you actually taped when you were a child your grandmother saying the circumstances by which Charlie Perkins came into their care. Here's the video.
She said, he's getting older and it's getting a bit difficult for me to manage. And I think she'd be better in the hostel if you think that you have room to take him.
How did you happen to record that?
Well, we were coming to the later stages of my grandmother's life, and she was talking about her early years in Alice Springs. And she recalled that Hetty Perkins, who had been a trusted friend of Percy Smith for almost 10 years, came and asked if two of her sons, Charlie and Ernie, could initially come and live at St John's Hostel in Alice Springs and then be part of the first 6 boys. What's more important is the opportunities those children got when they got into the big city to get into good schools and get into trades and eventually have a chance to get university educations, and some of the first Indigenous people ever to get university degrees were among the boys at St Francis House.
And the thing that was so great about Charlie Perkins is that from the opportunities he was given by your grandparents, far from being stolen and far from being a victim, he went on to become our first Aboriginal head of a government department, a federal government department, a trailblazer. Also, he was on that freedom fighting campaign, for Aboriginal rights. I only spoke to him, I think, once or twice, but that man really, he seemed to have a bond with your grandfather for a start, didn't he, even as an adult?
I was told by my grandmother that when my grandfather died in 1982, Charlie was obviously working in Canberra and in the department, and it meant so much to him what Father Smith had done that he asked for the funeral to be delayed one day so that he could fly back to Adelaide, pay his respects, and be one of the pallbearers at the funeral. And there was a lifelong connection between Charlie, Father Smith, and many of the other boys. They helped each other to do amazing things in sport, academia, the arts, and all realms of endeavour at a time when not many people were perhaps interested in giving Aboriginal people an opportunity.